Hello, and thank you for joining our first episode of the Webinar Hacker. With me, Diego Laje. It's great to start this journey toward making you a better speaker in general and a better and a big, huge webinar expert to help you connect with more people, reach more people, create leads, create relationships that will last and will be profitable not only in economic terms, but also in personal terms. Of course, we're going to be mainly talking about defense technology, but we're addressing a lot of topics at the same time. It's not only limited to this. We will be talking a lot about a lot of stuff in this podcast. Today, we're going to start really strong with one of the biggest international experts in public speaking. She's Dolores Hirschmann. She's been working for over 2 decades in helping experts communicate ideas and connect with audiences in an engaging, clear, and memorable way. She's an outstanding coach who has coached top international business leaders around the world. You will, in just a few moments, learn how to create a framework that gives you confidence whenever you need to deliver a complex message in a simple way. Let's go right into it. Dolores Hirschmann, thank you very much. Great having you.
I'm so excited for this conversation, Diego. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to jump right in. I want to know what makes public speaking compelling.
Yeah. So I've spent the last 10, 15 years of my career really working with business owners and experts. I worked with astronauts and doctors and engineers. And what the common denominator of having someone who's not an expert speaker, but uses speaking to communicate their message, to grow their business for business development purposes. Because at the end of the day, that is the one thing that we all must master, speaking, so that we can really, connect with the people that will move our projects or our ideas or our businesses forward. And what makes a compelling speaker stand out is their capacity to engage with their audiences. So people think, well, I need to know a lot about what I need to talk about, which is true. Of course, you have to be an expert,
Yeah,
but you
if
must,
you're not a subject matter
yeah,
expert, you can't.
then
Yeah,
yeah, but you must be really clear on the experience your audiences have with your topic. So I'm not just saying
could you go
like,
deeper into that?
yeah, I'm not just saying like you need to know how does it feel. Let's say that we're talking about I'm a cardiologist and I talk about medicine and heart. You can give me an example if you want. I need to know exactly what does it feel for my audience to be interested in this topic. It feels that they might have some issues. They might have some fears around it. They have emotions. They have um, human experiences around the topic. Understanding where they come from is what we need to do as a speaker to meet them where they are and begin the journey of taking them through a conversation. And I'm talking conversation, whether you're in a one-on-one or you're on stage, you're taking your audience or your listener through an experience of your topic that, as my mother said, and I think you've met my mother in the past, we've been friends for a lot of years. You always leave a room better than you found it. You always leave an audience better than you found it. But the only way to do that, the only way to add value, to have them have an aha or like, oh my God, I never thought of that, is that you need to meet them where they are and take them on a journey that is intentionally designed.
What do you mean with intentionally designed?
Yeah. So people think that when you're on a stage or when you're speaking to someone, the only thing that's happening is your words are coming out of your mouth, people are listening. Well, there's always two conversations happening. One is what you're saying, and Two is the experience people are having with the words you're using, the tone you're using, your body language, and the way you're showing up, your being, your energy, like your vibe, your vibration. I mean, the vibe can make or break an a speaking.
No, well,
Um,
there are facts around this, right?
uh,
20% of the communication you have with an audience is the text that you
Nonverbal.
recite.
Yeah,
80% is everything else, from body
exactly.
to, to tone of voice.
Yeah, the
So,
nonverbal cues, because we are beings where we must, for our survival, that's how we're wired. We must read all of the elements in a room, and as you say, only 20% is the words that we use. And so, when you want to be intentional about an experience, first of all, you need to understand that. And so, if you have awareness of that, it's like, okay, so who do I need to be as I stand on the stage to really generate the outcome that I want? That's the first question you ask yourself, to be intentional in anything in your life, really. And so I actually teach a whole framework. It's 7 steps. And the reason I put that framework together almost 10 years ago is because I was coaching my speakers coming on a TEDx stage. And many of these people, as many of the people that you probably are talking to, are not professional speakers. They haven't spent 50 years training to be speakers, nor should they, not do they want to, but they must master the basic concepts so that they can be effective with their time on a stage. Go
but
ahead.
there's a problem we usually have, and this is that, especially in technology, we touch on complex issues that we want to make sure we get the message across, right? And we script a lot of what we say. So, how do you weigh scripting? Of course, on the stage it's different because it's very hard to have the prompters presidents have. You can't. But in an environment like a webinar, how do you
Mhm.
weigh the scripting or
So,
the use of the script?
a couple of layers here. First of all, uh, if we can't, Einstein said, if we can't explain something complex simply, then we don't understand it that well ourselves yet. So that's step number one. Step number two is, I believe in scripts. I don't believe in memorizing. Teleprompters are for specific situations where you must follow a guideline. But for the people that I work with, the experts that you and I are talking about, they know their subject matter, they know their topic, they know what they're teaching. All they need is a framework. And the beauty of webinars, and this is why I love, so first of all, I love virtual speaking, and I specifically love webinars. Why? First of all, is the only medium, the only way where you can actually have a live conversation with your audience without interrupting the flow. How do we do that? Through the chat. You can actually, as a speaker, say, simple, like when you're getting started, to engage your audience, where are you logging in from? Please put in the chat, and you can start reading the chat and start naming people by name. And now you're creating an experience where the audience says, oh my God, she sees me. Like, she's talking to me. She mentioned my name and realized that I'm from DC or whatever, right? Like, little tiny details like that go a long way in creating a human experience. And then the second part is, a script has a framework. Like, when you write something, the script is what you put in like this. The castle is built in a sandbox, and so the sandbox is this framework that you use to create that script. So how I work on this is, first I teach my clients a framework, meaning there are 7 elements to a great talk. You can't skip any. Once you understand the framework, and you have to understand the framework, how it applies to your expertise. It's almost like building a puzzle. Okay, there's 7 puzzle pieces I need to put together. I know everything I need to say, but how do I organize it? So first is the framework. Once you use the framework to create your script, now here's where the beauty of webinar comes in. Webinars, usually the best resource to use in a webinar is a slide deck. And so how I coach people to do this is, I ask them to, or I work with them in creating visual slide decks. So not words, not death by PowerPoint.
Yeah, no, no,
Uh,
please no never-ending text.
exactly. It's just really one or two words max in any deck at any time, and the rest are images. And each one of those slides is a trigger for your brain for the blurb that you're going to share. It might not be word by word as you wrote it, but here's where comes the next piece of this process is rehearsing, and using tools from hypnosis. I'm a hypnotist, by the way. I don't know that you knew that.
I didn't know that.
This has been recent. I have never told that to anybody. But using methodologies from hypnosis to really create a memory, a mechanical memory in your brain of your message and your talk or your webinar in this case. And so each slide will trigger a thought, and you'll be confident in knowing what you're talking about because it's the visual cue. Not only does it help you to deliver what you have to say, but for your visual audiences, and you always have, half of your audience might be a visual learner. They will anchor whatever you're saying with the image on your slide. If you
Interesting.
put words, you disrupt that.
How long per slide, per image?
It could be 2 seconds. It could be 30 seconds. It's not like, and sometimes you will stay in a slide for a long time. But let's say, so the framework teaches is 7 steps. The first 3 steps, which starts with meeting your audience where they are, talking about what you're going to talk about, and introducing yourself. That's steps 1, 2, 3. Those 3 steps, sometimes it might take as little as 5 minutes or 3 minutes. And in those 3 steps, you might have 3 slides or 5 slides. If you're going to have like a lot of story around who you are, like I was graduating from Harvard when I discovered this thought, and then it wasn't until I worked with blah 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 that I was able to blah blah blah. Then you might have like 2 slides with 2 logos, and those logos tell a huge story of who you are without you talking about who you are, but anchors like, okay, Dolores, Harvard, or and so it's not so much about we need to have a specific amount of time on each slide or specific amount of slides per time on stage. It's really about how we create an attractive, engaging visual journey and visual cue that one is like a cheat sheet for you, but it also is a way to anchor what you say for your audience.
And how long does it take for someone who's not a pro to go from sandbox to good, acceptable delivery?
So I just got an email last week from a client who I met in December who has a multi-million dollar business. She even has a nonprofit, and she's being asked to speak all the time. And literally she throws up. She can't physically do it. So we met, and she said, I think I need to hire you, but I don't think it's going to work. Whatever you're going to teach me is not going to work. I said, look, I never do this, but I said, look, I know it's going to work. Let's make a deal. You will use some of your time, but whatever you invest in me, if you promise me that this doesn't work and you do the work, I will refund you every penny that you give me because I know it works. She's like, okay, like she couldn't say no. And she was a friend of a friend. She couldn't say no. And then she sends me, we started working in
Satisfaction
March.
guarantee. Right.
We started working in March, and she had a speaking engagement in April, and in mid-June she sent me a message. She said, I never thought I would write this. She said, it's not that I'm not stressed about speaking, but I'm not panicking. And she said, I'm not panicking. I'm actually enjoying some things. I'm seeing the results. She got an investor because of her speaking, and she's like, how do I speak more? So it can take as little as 2 or 3 speaking engagements after you write your talk that you're practicing it. So within a couple of weeks or a couple of months, if you do the work and get on stages, it can really change how you show up. And the difference here, Diego, is not that I have any magic, is when you give someone who has fear or an emotion around something, when you give them a framework they can rely on and that they understand, and you give them a script that they can rehearse that feels authentic to them, that is not far from what they would say anyway, but it feels clean and organized, and they see how people react to that, because that's basically the proof is in the pudding. Then they buy into it, and it becomes autopilot.
So if I'm understanding what you're saying, it's that whenever you have a bigger speaking engagement, you get your clients to have smaller speaking engagements to build confidence.
I mean, some people do, some don't. Yes. So I would say if you've never spoken, let's write a talk and let's get you to a stage with low stakes. I mean, don't go and book the biggest conference in your industry. Chances are you're not going to get selected anyway if you don't have background. But maybe, like, I coach at the time. He's no longer in that position. The CEO of one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Can't say the name because they asked me not to. Um, and uh, and so this is a high stakes talk. He knew how to speak. Of course, he was the CEO of the largest pharma, but he needed to create a talk that was high converting and engaging. And so you
What is high converting for pharma?
Why is hard convert? Well, it depends on the goals. I mean, in this
Yeah.
case, it was buy-in into a philosophy, or
Okay.
I mean, it could be anything. Run of investment. High converting really simply is, why are you on stage? What is the outcome? What's going to happen once you're on stage? And then tracking that happens.
Okay.
So in
Sorry,
that case,
go
it was
on.
different.
Sorry.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, like, of course, you have to be kamikaze to go from zero to the biggest opportunity of your life if you've never spoken before. Most of the people I work with actually have fumbled through speaking for years, and with mixed results, or non-tracking results, or not knowing that they could get results. And they come to me knowing, like, okay, what if I'm actually intentional about this? What if the next opportunity I have to be on stage, I'm owning what I say, but also I'm owning the results because I'm driving towards the results.
Normally, you organize a webinar, you have a specific audience, you probably ID'd the audience well, you know them, right? We're working hard in this podcast to better understand the audiences we speak to. How do you end it?
Hmm. So So when I say high converting, basically is driving towards an outcome. Depends. So I'll speak on the from a digital marketing perspective about a webinar. So if you own the audience, which means what? If I'm actually doing a webinar this week, I invited my list to join me on Thursday, which is actually my birthday, and I'm doing a launch of a software.
Congratulations in advance.
Um, and so in this case, I own the audience, meaning I have the contact information. So I don't need to lead collect. But if you don't own the audience, then the minimum action you want them to take is to sign up for something. This is what I call the lead gen or free resource. Basically, you want to own this audience. You want the contact information, ideally first name, email, and cell phone. So how do you do that? How do you end a webinar when you're lead collecting? Is you invite them to download or access a resource that they see value. Never, please, never, never, never invite people to your newsletter. Who wants another newsletter? But we all want something that can move the needle for us on a pain point that we might have in our life or business. And so you when you don't know the audience, you lead collect. That's a call to action. That's how you end it. When you do own the audience, so you don't need to lead collect, then you have a little bit more wiggle room. So you could actually do a webinar. And this is one thing that I've done for many years, is you sell something. You sell a product, you sell a service, whatever it is that your business is you actually extend an invitation for them to go into the next relationship with you. Here's one thing I want to put this in context. Speaking is the fastest way to grow your business. A webinar is what we call usually our own stage if we are managing the webinar, or it's at other people's platform if we're a guest, right?
Yeah.
But it is a first date. It's in many cases a first date with your audience. And so, what is the one thing anybody would want from a successful first date?
What is it?
What do you think?
A second date.
Yeah, you want a second date. And the only way to have a second date is to have the contact information. Um, and it may be that you have a first date, or in the case of a list that you've been nurturing. For example, I'm doing a webinar this week to my list. This is not a first date. These people have been following me and reading my material for a long time. So I'm going right into a proposal, not a marriage proposal, but definitely engagement. Do you want to be my girlfriend? Do you want to get engaged? You know, low ticket item. What does that mean? Is that, and a lot of people say, oh, I do a webinar, I sell my $50,000 product. It's like, yeah, I don't think it's going to sell on a mass,
Yeah.
volume on a webinar with other people. But what you can do is talk about your offerings and invite them to a one-on-one conversation. So that's another way to end a webinar where you're looking to sell your services or your products. And again, if you're selling something low ticket, you might actually say, for $27, download or enroll my whatever. Usually, when I work with industry speakers or industry webinars of higher level or more sophisticated products, what you really want is to book a sales call. And so,
Yeah.
how do you end it? You book a sales call.
Dolores, our time is about to be up, but before we go, I want to know if there's anything I'm missing, anything you'd like to tell the audience that we may have not touched on.
Yeah, I would say that especially in the corporate world and in the business world, we tend to separate our humanity from our way we communicate in that world. And I would say for everybody who's looking to speak or have webinars, is the more you are, the more real you are, the more authentic you are, brilliant and an expert and knowing what you know, but bring in humor, bring in warmth, bring in stories, connect with people. If you're doing a webinar on the chat, the more human you are, the higher the engagement's going to be, and the chances are they're going to love you and then want to work with you.
Easy. Dolores Hirschmann, great speaking with you. Thank you for your time. Great having you in the show. See you next time.
Awesome. Thanks to you.
Thanks. Compelling speaking involves not only expertise, but also understanding and connecting with the audience's emotions and experiences. Engage the audience through visual cues, storytelling, and intentional design of the talk or webinar. Authenticity and human connection in business communication achieves a lot. Being real, humorous, and warm increases engagement and effectiveness. Remember, Dolores left a sandbox for us, a framework that starts as usual in communications, thinking about your audience, but also thinking about your character, who you want to be when you deliver that message to your audience. That's a key concept here. Everything is up to you, who you want to be, of course. Do you have tips, ideas, adventures that you would like to share with us? Please do so below. Do share them with us, with a community, with the webinar hacking community. Why? Because hacking is better done as a team. So if you want to join the team, all you have to do is share experiences, share this, comment, talk to your friends, and let everybody know that we're trying to hack this together. With this, I leave you until next time. I'm the webinar hacker. I'm Diego Lage, and see you in the next episode. Bye.